With another Safe Space episode. This is like an interview docu-series that I'm doing. Blake Bozeman here, representing the Pivot Group, working with my guy Brian Inge, Inge Consulting. So yeah, man, we're happy to do this, and we're gonna give you guys a little background on what it is that we're doing and how this has come about. So B, give
working together for a few years now, as far as professionally, through AAU and through the game of basketball. And before then, I was his trainer. He was one of the better players I had the opportunity to train. And over the time of knowing him, I actually noticed that it was something different about him. Like he saw the bigger picture. So when he came out with the Pivot Group, my first inclination was like, oh man, I'm in position. I want to help you. I like what you're doing. You're thinking the same wavelength as me. We should do some stuff together. At the time, we didn't know, we weren't trying to do Safe Space. We tried the podcast thing. We tried a few different things. Then we kind of came up with the sports and business career transitioning symposium. And after we did that, we wanted to do a little bit more to help raise awareness to our culture, the basketball culture in the area, that you can do more than play basketball or play football or play soccer or do whatever it is you're doing. You can do more than that. You can run it. You can own it. You can be the CEO. And that's kind of what our mission is with our sports and business series, and also this project known as Safe Space, where at Safe Space we're trying to touch people, to give them or to let them tell their stories. And right now we're going to tell our stories. We're going to get very personal, and I hope you guys enjoy.
So, with that route, but I'll ask you, bro, when did you realize, like, when did it hit you that, damn, I'm not going to be a pro like I wanted to be? Mm-hmm. All right, so now, let me figure out, all right, decision made, I'm going to hang them up, I got to do something else.
I say, all right, so I was a fifth-year senior. I transferred a few times. I always had the work ethic. I was a late bloomer, per se. I played with great talent in high school. Went to Bishop McNamara, then transferred out to National Christian, where we were the best team in the area by far. I played with probably 7 pros, 3 or 4 played in the NBA. I played with Kevin Durant, Michael Beasley, Deron Washington, Patrick Ewing Jr. All had the opportunity to play in the NBA, and other guys, Abdullah Jallo, Chris Matthews, Chris Cole, who are doing great things with the game of basketball. So I had the drive to be as good as them, to compete with them, to prove my worth. And that led into college. I got hurt. I was a little big-headed. PG stuff, right. PG County stuff. And then when it came, I was successful my senior year, very successful, in which propelled me to chase the dream of being a professional basketball player. So after a year went by, I was working out every day, working with my trainer, working with other people, just trying to get better, trying to stay ready. Then I got the opportunity. I did a D-League showcase, did well, but wasn't quite good enough. So I'm thinking, well, I'll go overseas. Mm-hmm. Stayed home for like 4 or 5 months. And at that time, I was like, wow, everyone's either at school or working.
How old
overseas.
Were you at
I was 23 this time.
Okay.
Everyone's gone, and it's February, and I'm sitting at home in my mother's basement.
Right.
I'm 23 years old. I got a college degree. What am I really doing? Like, what am I really doing? And that's when, and like I said, I had the opportunity to play like ABA, minor league stuff, where I could get some film and continue to chase the dream. But I was like, I want to be successful. I don't want to just play pro basketball just to say over the summer I can say I'm a pro up in Rose Bar or Ozio or whatever like that. You know what I'm saying? So it was a moment, I remember the moment. It was around like February. My girlfriend at the time, we had just broken up, and I was at my lowest moment. And I realized, I'm like, man, this ain't for me. I got to do something else. And that was a tough moment for me. I cried a lot. I cried often. And I just realized, you got to do something else. I mean, you work hard to make yourself a good player. When people didn't believe in you, you can do the same thing all over again. And by the grace of God, I was able to get an internship and then I got my master's. Then I met you guys, started working with you. Then I met some of my younger kids who are like juniors and seniors now. I started working with them. And it all kind of just started to come together slowly but surely. So it was a moment. It was a cold moment in February. And I went to run and shoot. And instead of doing my normal 2-hour workout, I got up 25 shots. And excuse my language. I was like, fuck this shit.
Fuck this.
You know what I'm saying? I say,
Hold that basketball.
I say, I'm smarter than that. I'm gonna figure this out. So you, I'm gonna ask you, for someone who basketball is in your bloodline. I mean, you got a rich basketball bloodline from your father to your uncle to your cousins. You've got a rich, very rich basketball bloodline.
Mm-hmm.
What inside of you made you want to do more than basketball? Because I see your father very successful, your uncle very successful, your sister, your cousin's very successful playing basketball, and I went to school with her. But you like early on with you, I realized that you were a little bit different from the rest of the guys who were in your age group, which we called Hoopnati. So what made you
so similarly to you know what you saying, like, man, starting at a young age, like, and it's funny seeing how life plays out, but I've played with and it plays a part in where I'm at today now and how I came to that realization. But from the guys that are in the league now, from, you know, Jerran and Jeremy Grant, I mean, I've known them since I was about 8 years old and played with them. I've known Quinn Cook since we were like 8, 9 years old, playing in his backyard. You know, Marcus, you know, that's the bro since high school. Coming up to play with DC Assault, so I mean, I've been around and played with, you know, Mike Beasley, Nolan Smith. I mean, I've seen them all. Like you said, with the rich background, basketball background in my family. I mean, I've seen my dad, you know, work with guys, James White, Rodney White, that played with the Nuggets for a little bit. He was involved. He was coaching at ABCD camp with Lance Stevenson. My dad was coaching Gerald Green when he was in high school, and he came out of high school the next summer after my dad was coaching him at ABCD camp and was #1 draft pick in the league straight out of high school. I mean, pretty much, man, anybody and everybody out of this area. I even played with Chris Wright and them with Rising Stars as a young bull. Like, you know, I didn't get in the game or anything like that, but just to be around, you know, that kind of thing. So I've been around and seen it. I mean, from the best of the best, from the guys that have, you know, were the best then and made it, you know, to present day, to guys that were the best then and, you know, they didn't quite make it and pan out. But for me, I think I realized that there was more to it than just the game. Partially because, like, my mom's been an elementary school teacher for 20 plus years, so she's always been heavy in academics. So for me, like, it wasn't an option. Like, you know, some of my peers that I noticed, it wasn't like school and doing well in school it was mandatory. It wasn't an option. Like, my mom was not rocking for that, so my grades had to be good. I didn't enjoy school like, you know, like anybody else. Or I should say, you know, the majority of my peers, I didn't enjoy school, and to be honest, even in college, I didn't enjoy school, but it was just part of, like, what was instilled in me, like, dude, you're smart, you're gonna do well in school, like, you're not just gonna, you know, fluke it off. And I didn't, so for me, like, growing up, I always took care of my academics. And it didn't, you know, as a youngin', it's just like, you know, you're in that competitive mindset, like, man, I'm gonna be the best. Like, I'm gonna make it. You know, that's my ultimate dream. Yeah, by any means, ball is life. Like, I'm gonna be in the league.
PG County, USA.
And you don't really realize until you get a little older that it ain't really as realistic of a goal, you know, that you can have. So I don't think I really realized until like I was out of high school that the NBA was a little far-fetched.
I know when I realized that, so you had something different than you. I remember we were having an argument, not myself, but I was watching the argument in a group chat, and somebody made something that like why are you going to Morgan and something like that, and then you're like, well, I could have went to Princeton, and at that moment I was like, hold on, I could have went to Princeton. Like, who says that? Who has the balls and the courage in a group full of guys who want to be pro basketball players? Who says, man, I could have went to Princeton, I'm smart. You know,
it was Penn. It was UPenn. It was Penn over there in Philly.
I apologize. And I like, dude, that's when I was like, hold on, they could have went to Penn? I'm like, okay. You know what I'm saying? That's when I kind of like, all right, let me look at him a little differently.
And I knew at that age, just off SAT scores and grades, I'm like, my SAT scores and my grades are better than just regular students, like these regular kids that are in class with me. I'm not comparing my grades and my scores to, the guys I hoop with. I'm comparing to regular Joe Schmo, you know what I mean, who's sitting next to me in my AP calculus class. So I knew, but I love basketball, so it wasn't like, all right, I'm gonna go to school and not hoop, even though academically I would have got accepted into damn near any school I would have applied to. And even, it's funny because even in hindsight, knowing and learning like what we've learned by now, it's like, what if, I would have went to one of those schools just as a regular student and been a preferred walk-on, would that have made any difference in how, life panned out? But nonetheless, I realized around the high school age that the NBA was a little far-fetched. But, as I know that present-day high school players don't really understand the overseas and the G League professional career goals aren't quite as attainable as we're made to believe that they are either. And I didn't realize that until I was at Morgan towards the end of my, I guess around like junior, senior year, when I'm seeing like some of the guys that have balled out, done their thing at Morgan. It's just like, he don't have no guaranteed overseas contract. It must not be as sweet as people think, because this is a dude who been averaging 20 a game for 2-3 years now at a mid-major, or this is a guy who been averaging, he was averaging 20 and 10 as a sophomore. Why he not making 6 figures playing overseas? Because it ain't as sweet as you think. Nonetheless, though, for me, I had a son on the way my senior year, so by the time, and I had a lot that I wanted to prove my senior year up there at Morgan, and I feel, not overall in the team aspect, but individually I feel like I proved a lot, at least to myself. Fuck what I proved, what I may have or not have proved to anybody else, but I did my thing a little bit my senior year, and I think I exceeded some people's expectations and kind of put some people on notice. Like,
icy.
Shorty got some shit to him.
It was icy. It was a lot of dudes getting slid around.
And I had an opportunity. I was presented with a crossroads when my senior season came to an end. I was presented with the crossroads of either pursuing, and I had an opportunity to go play overseas. I was literally talking to. It was a couple different agents that were talking to me about opportunities going to play overseas. Nothing extremely lucrative, but something to get your foot in the door and make that climb, make that grind, as we all know how it goes, especially coming from a mid-major. So I was presented with either that road, the fork in the road, go left, or go right and take this internship that I had at my hands at the Department of Defense, DIA to be specific. So I had an internship, finish my master's, or, and be home with my son, or go pursue what really was like, man, my childhood dream, like to become a pro, and to really like that chip on my shoulder, like, man, y'all got me bent, like, I'm gonna go show y'all what's up with me. So, that's when I realized, I'm like, man, I got a real like lifetime choice to make, and no regrets to it to this day, and I think that's the irony in it, because had I not had a son, I would have for sure been like, oh no, I'm going overseas. Like, I'm about to hoop. I'm about to hoop and get it on. But, ironically, I had a son, and I'm like, man, I need to be home with my son, and me, taking this internship and, furthering that into a full-time position is going to set me up in the long run for a better future. And I'm appreciative of that, and that's why I'm, in the position that I'm in now. But had it not been, the unique and ironic situation of me having a child to consider and somebody to consider other than just myself, I would have pursued those, those aspirations to be a pro overseas for sure. So, I'm in hindsight, I can say that I'm, grateful and appreciative for the unique situation that was presented to me, because it set me up, for a better future. And
able to do all that, because that was one thing. Like, I'm a lot older than you, but that was one thing I really admired about you, and to this day I still admire about you, because you're a great father. You're very motivated, and even though you're younger than me, you're someone that I consider one of my good friends, who I can come to for advice if I need it, or if I need something, like I can rely on you. So tell me, what was it like at that time period, when it was like you were about to have your son, while still chasing your dreams, achieving your dreams, and still trying to segue that into being a successful black man in modern day America, which we know is different from past days.
Man, so I mean, as you probably know, that was easily some of the toughest, most trying times of my life. Juggling the pressures of being the coach's son at a Division I school, having a baby on the way at 21 years old, you know, compounding that with just the pressures or the anxiety that comes with being a college student and a college athlete simultaneously alone. So it was definitely tough, but I think, you know, in hindsight, I'm able to be grateful for that experience because it prepared me for life. Like, prepared me for, you know, life after school. And ironically, it's just like that's kind of what inspired me to start the Pivot Group, because of the experiences that I had at Morgan and me seeing. I mean, I ended up being, you know, I had a very solid career at Morgan. Unfortunately, I lost two conference championships and wasn't able to go to the NCAA tournament, but still was able to experience a lot of success there and play alongside some of the, you know, best players in the conference, period. But while I was there, I mean, I realized just like some of the guys that I really played with that were really good, it's like their roads kind of ended there. Like they either didn't finish school or they just went back to the hood, went back to the streets, with no degree, or the overseas thing didn't work out for them. And it kind of hit me. I'm like, man, this is not just unique to my teammates and guys that I've, you know what I mean? It's the norm. Like, this is something that a lot of guys experience. So for me, it was just like, you know, get your degree. Okay, boom, now you're ahead of the page. You actually can get your master's, because it wasn't my plans to get my master's when I went to school. Just like I said, I didn't like school. I still don't like school. I don't like it, but it's just like, man, I'm gonna take advantage of a situation. If I can go ahead and grind it out and get my master's, man, go ahead and do it, because it's gonna set me up better for the future. Not only, you know what I mean, for me, but then like with me having a kid on the way, it's just like, all right, you know, I got more to consider than just myself. So for me, it was like I really like realized like the bigger picture in things. It's just like, all right, I wasn't the best there, damn sure wasn't the worst. I was more so in the middle of the pack, but it's just like in the grand scheme of things, in the bigger, you know, in the bigger race, the marathon of things, it's like, bro, it's a lot more to go. Like, it's a lot more to go. Like, you only 21, 22, college. Like, you know how much more of your life you gotta live.
Exactly, another 60, 80 years.
So for me, yeah, for me, that's what it, you know, that's what it was. And still is. It's just like, man, it's so much more to life than, you know, just what, you know, my playing career was. Even guys that I look up to, like Kobe, you know what I mean? You see somebody as accomplished and as great as Kobe Bryant. And even LeBron said it the other day in the interview. He said, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm doing on the basketball court. I mean, it is what it is. It's going to come. I mean, he's passing all-time records every week, it seems like. But he says himself, the greatest things I'm gonna do are the things that I tell you guys what I do off the court, with my charities, with my organizations, and with me giving back to, you know, to the city of Akron. He said, so, you know, I'm gonna leave it at that. But for you, man, I'll ask you, bruh, what has allowed your perspective to change as it comes to basketball, not only on the athletic side of things, but on the business side of things, through all the different players that you've played alongside and with, trained and coached? I mean, and you're not an old dude. I mean, you're still in, you know what I mean, it ain't even really start yet. You still in your prime, and you've already seen and experienced a lot. What has really like impacted your perspective on the world of athletics?
I think for me, the biggest teacher for me has always been pain, frustration, and heartbreak. As a kid, like I said, I wasn't the greatest player, but I used that pain and that anguish to want to be better, and I used that to drive me. once I got to my professional life, I won't say my professional career because I'm not a basketball player, but my professional career, I was blessed to be around. Like I said, I was with DeMarcus Cousins while he was going through pre-draft. You know, I witnessed it. I saw Keith Williams, what he went through trying to get Markelle Fultz along that process. Like I saw it, I was there. I was able to see. I was able to be in the gym with Steve Francis as he was working out in an empty gym and seeing what he went through while he was in Orlando and all the difficulties that come with the business side of sports. Like I saw all that stuff, and then I was able to use those experiences to help me mold the next generation. When I say with that pain, throughout my life, there's been people who I trusted that broke my trust, broke my heart. Not in like a relationship per se, like a man-woman relationship, but as far as like a friendship or a brother-sister relationship or a brother-brother relationship. It's people that you entrust your faith with, and right or wrong, things happen, but your outlook on life changes, and you see that nothing is given. Nothing, you can't take anything for granted, because at the drop of a dime, things change. People change, So I think for me, seeing like talk right now with the process of Markelle, you're seeing how the difficulties he's having right now with his injury, and it's kind of just heartbreaking, and going back, and I saw the same thing with Steve Francis, same thing with DeMarcus. DeMarcus is going through with Achilles right now. It's kind of heartbreaking, but for me, I took that heartbreak and pain and like people, just bad things happening in my life, and turned into a positive, and taking that pain that I was experiencing and not wanting anyone to experience that pain. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to turn this into a positive. I'm going to give back. So whereas like if someone forsake me, I said I'll never do that to another person. I'll make sure that I'm giving everything I can to the next person just to play it forward. So give you an example. I'll just use you to give you an example. You made the choice to start a pivot group. And this was maybe a little over a year ago, maybe two. I'm not too sure. But at the time, I wasn't quite sure how I could help anyone. And then I saw your tweet online. I was like, man, I can help Blake. I know I can help Blake. I'm going to help Blake. I'm going to make that my mission to help Blake. And same thing with Marcus Thornton. Same thing with Jeff Dowden. Same thing with the Mitchell twins. Same thing with all these kids I come up with. I'm going to make it my goal to give back and to make sure, do my best to make sure no one feels the pain and the heartache I felt, because no one needs to feel that. That drove me, and I'm not saying it's a good thing, but it drove me to be successful. It drove me to create Inge Consulting Group to try to bring knowledge to our community that should be more than a basketball player. It drove me to be more than a basketball player. It drove me to use my brain. It drove me to read Malcolm Gladwell's books. It drove me to go to different lectures. It drove me to sit in business meetings with Fortune 500 companies and just be a fly on the wall. It drove me to put my pride to the side and let people think they were getting over on me at the time, because I needed that knowledge. I needed that experience, because experience is the greatest teacher. So I just say that the biggest thing that drove me was life's experiences, which more often than not was pain, and which helped me to help the next generation.
With on a more personal side of things, what is one or two major things that you take away, or that you've taken away from your dad being here, and what he's instilled in you, that you might wish, or that you wish that you may have taken a little more seriously when you were younger, or applied better when you were younger and he was still here?
I'm glad you asked that. For those who don't know, my dad's no longer here. So my dad was probably the hardest working man I've ever met, and I didn't realize at the time. I didn't really appreciate it. My dad worked probably 7 days a week, every week, give or take, unless he was sick, and he still probably worked. And my dad didn't graduate high school. He didn't finish 9th grade, but he was able to build his own business from scratch. A guy with no formal education who could probably couldn't tell you what 5 times 5 was. My man was able to do it, And I didn't want for nothing as a kid. You know, I had everything I wanted. I had all the Jordans. You know, I had the PlayStations. I had everything I wanted. You know, I mean, my mom had everything she wanted. You know, life wasn't good. I mean, life wasn't sweet. You know, we had our challenges within the household, but just seeing how he was able to work, subconsciously, I picked up on it. At the time, I kind of was like, man, I ain't doing that. Like, why he always working? Like, you know what I'm saying? Why I'm not doing that? Like, why you will do that? Like, why you helping this person? Like, why you doing this? Why you doing that? You don't need to do that. But as when he passed, and more so over the years since he's passed, I've kind of started to realize how he shaped who I am. You know, just that work ethic. You know, I mean, he worked tirelessly for the family, for the immediate family, for my brother, for my aunts, for my uncles, for my grandmother, for everyone. And I remember one conversation we had one time. I'll say this: my father was an alcoholic. He died because of his alcoholism. We had a conversation one time when he was drunk, and he told me, he's like, man, I do so much for everybody, but don't nobody do nothing for me. And at the time, I was like 16, 17 years old. Maybe I might have been older. I can't really remember right now. But I remember looking at him like, man, what are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? And I really, to this day, I still think about that. Like, you know what? He really did do for everybody. And that's kind of like, it was ingrained in myself. Like, do for others what you can't do for yourself. You know, so, I mean, I know my shortcomings as a person. And I feel that I got that from my dad. So I was like, there are things that I couldn't do, for instance. I couldn't be a professional basketball player. So my goal was to make sure that one of you guys had the opportunity to make it professional. Once I matured in my thought process, I was like, you know what? Life is bigger than basketball. Life is more than basketball. My goal is to help them get to where they need to get.
Successful in something regardless of whether
basketball.
It's basketball.
Like everyone has a ceiling. Everyone has a floor. I know where my ceiling is, and my goal is for you guys, for the people, anyone I come in contact with, is to make sure that their ceiling is above my ceiling. And I feel like if you guys, especially speaking of you and other people, if you guys can go above where you think you can go, then I did my job to the world.
You can be fulfilled with that.
Yeah.
No, that's real. That's real.
I remember back in the day when we did have cameras around every now and then, but it was never to showcase me. It was always to like, I can get this kid a look, or people don't know that he can shoot off the dribble, or stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Just trying to make sure y'all was getting every opportunity that y'all could get. I feel as now, and especially in PG County, DC, where so we have so many great ball players, and we do have a lot of great trainers. Everything is a gimmick now. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's a problem when you're trying to mentor kids, because it's not about basketball per se. It's about instilling values and doing things a certain way.
And I think that's key to what we're doing now, because especially in whether it be the AAU games, the high school games, or the the individual / group training workouts, it's like, man, stop telling these kids that they're going to be the next pro out of this area. Stop telling these kids that they're great and untouchable, and ball is life, and shorty all love it, he gonna be the next. Like, man, if that's gonna happen, let it happen by all means. Congratulations, shorty, do your thing, but don't fuel and feed that, because you don't know. You never know what's gonna happen. And I can say that from our workouts, it was never that was never the thing. And I think that's what's kind of, I get it, but at the same token, it's just like you're doing kids a disservice by
a huge disservice.
Fueling that and really getting them to believe that. Because, man, if you got your group session of 15 kids working out, you'll be lucky if one of them ends up being a pro. You know what I mean? I don't
one
care.
Makes it to a Division I school.
Yeah, and that's one thing. Even in this area, because there's so many kids that go, high, mid, major, whatever. It's just like, man, cool. Even if about 6, of those 15 kids go high major, man, you'll be lucky if one of them goes, makes it to the league. Let alone, overseas or that sort of thing. So it's, a better approach to really, prepare these young kids for, the bigger picture. The bigger picture.
So I think, closing, the main thing that myself and Blake wanted to get through, especially with this series with SafeSpace, and also in the past with the Sports and Business Career Transitioning Symposium that we did, we're just trying to shift the culture. It's not a me thing. It's not a Blake thing. It's a thing that we're all trying to do as a collective in the community. You know, so like I said, we had the SB CTS. We have SafeSpace, and we hope that you take something from this message. And we're talking real life right now. You know what I'm saying? We're talking real life experiences, and we're profiling people who are real people who are doing real things. And we're trying to show you that you don't have to work for the company. You can own the company. You know what I'm saying? Once you own the company, pay it forward. Give somebody the opportunity to make something of themselves. Because that's what it's about. I mean, it's 2018. You know, we're in a different world, and we have to adapt to it. You know, so with that being said, enjoy SafeSpace, and the next SBCTS is coming.
You can look forward to more projects, more diversified projects from us coming soon.
Very soon.
We're going to extend and continue the SafeSpace and the docu-series. We will appear on some different platforms coming soon, and of course we are bringing more panel events and bigger influence to the area
Very soon. And
thank you.
And like I said, if you like what we're saying, you know, just support it, repost it, retweet it, whatever you want to do, because what we're trying to do, like I said, it's bigger than us. It's bigger than you. You know, we're trying to do it for the next generation. And like I said, we're not doing this for money. We're not doing this because, you know, for the fame, whatever like this. Because like, we're regular people just like you. You know, I'm 32 years old. I work a job. I run a few businesses. He's 25, 26 years old. He's a great father. He owns his own house. He's running his own corporation, his own business. You know, we're just trying to show people that you can be who you want to be without having to bounce a basketball or throw a football or whatever it is. So I'm Brian Inge.
Blake Bozeman, representing the Pivot Group.
Inge Consulting Group, and together we're part of SafeSpace. Hope you enjoy.